Welcome back, MTG Joe here. We're here for another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the top performing decks across a variety of different formats on the MTG Arena ladder. This particular video is for the historic best of one format, and it's our first installment since the release of Dominaria United. We are getting all our data from Untapped GG, it's a companion tool that runs alongside your Arena client. Free to use a whole bunch of functionality, including tracking your win rates, loss rates, deck collections, in-game overlays, a whole bunch of cool stuff you can use. Link is in the video description down below. I'll also paste these deck lists into the YouTube video description if you want to import them, but signing up to Untapped is really easy because then you can just click copy to MTGA. It'll tell you how many wildcards you're short and a whole bunch of cool functionality. In any case, jumping into it, we are looking at this from September 1st to September 10th. So we're doing basically the entirety of the legal period of Dominaria United, just a bigger sample size, 41,000 games from Platinum into Mythic rank. And the top performing deck is kind of an old one that's seen nothing new added to it. It is Squirrel Twin combo, Heliod combo, Scurry Oak combo, Life Gain combo, whatever you want to call it. For those of you who are unfamiliar, what it is the combination of Heliod the Sun Crowned, Scurry Oak, as well as anything that gains you a life when a creature enters the battlefield. So something like Lunarch Veteran, Soul Warden, Prosperous Innkeeper creates infinite life, infinite tokens. And the way that works is Scurry Oak enters the battlefield, triggers the life gain. Heliod puts a counter on Scurry Oak, which creates a token, which triggers the life gain, which puts a copy on Scurry Oak, and then you kind of rinse and repeat. And then you kill your opponent, hopefully, as fast as you can click, and kind of go from there. Then you have kind of the backup plan with this deck of Trelasarra that also can help you scry to find specific answers, as well as Voice of the Blessed, which can get infinitely large and flying and indestructible. You have ways to piece up the deck through Collected Company and Inquisitor Captain to find you your combo pieces, and you have ways to break up disruption through Skyclave Apparition. Mana base wise, I don't love the Sunpetal Groves, but if you got to play them, you got to play them. The creature lands, Castle Ardenvale is actually pretty good in this deck. So next deck is Mono Green Elves. This is a deck that you can see I don't own many of the cards. If I want to build this, I need 3 uncommons, 9 rares, and 3 mythics. I have 40 rares in my collection, 20 mythics. So I could craft this if I want. I just don't like playing elves. But the deck itself got an injection with Leaf Crown Visionary from Dominaria. So it's another 2-mana Lord. It's a 2-mana 1/1 that makes your other elves get +1/1. And notably, the big thing with elves is you dump your hand, and if your opponent answers it with like a Sweeper, an Anger of the Gods, a Supreme Verdict, a Wrath of God, you're like, well, guess I die. This allows you to kind of refill your hand. Every time you cast an elf, you get to pay a mana and draw a card. It lets you kind of combo and chain together your deck. What you're trying to do is just generate large sums of mana, and the main ways to do that is Elvish Archdruid, Growing Rites of Itlimoc, or Circle of the Dream Druids, and you pump that mana into either Elvish Warmaster or Allosaurus Shepherd, and then it buffs up your squad and you can kill him here. So this version's not on the Craterhoof package, and is looking to just be more elf ball and kind of use the pump ability. So a lot of ways to kind of cast your cards. Your mana base, you get Lair the High Drub, Boseiju, Castle Garenbrig, all kind of mixed into there. The next deck is It Wizards, and this is another deck that got an injection of a new card in Balfour, Battle Mage Captain. So 2-mana, 1/3, Bird Wizard, flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, creatures you control get +1/0 and gain trample to end the turn, which is really relevant because you can often make your things really big. You have stuff like Reckless Charge, which can give +3 with the prowess stuff, stacking with Symmetry Sage. Now you can give them trample to just pump through a whole bunch of damage. It also works really nice as a pump, even just casting a single spell, because it makes Dreadhorde Arcanist 2-power, and then it lets you cast like Mentor's Guidance, which draws you multiple cards, Expressive Iteration from the yard, Static Discharge, and kind of go to town like that. Symmetry Sage also is a way to buff your creature's base stats. And then the prowess stacks on top of that. Mixing in that, you have Burn with Play of Fire, Static Discharge, and Wizard's Lightning. This version is opting to go with Ledger Shredder as well. No Opt in this version. I was playing a version with Opt, I think. So then we have Mono Red Burn. This is a deck that's featuring, from Baldur's Gate, Lelia, Blade Reforged. Really like this card. I'm playing it in Mono Red aggro. but this lets you kind of refill your hand, which is a major kind of downside with the burn decks. You're dumping your hand, but then you just run out of gas. The one thing is if we do see a popularity of Selesnya life gain, this burn deck actually, it's kind of iffy because depending on how your burn lines up, you have a bunch of removal for all their cheap creatures, but as soon as they kind of get over you, you probably have a better matchup against the Scurry Oak deck as opposed to Angels, just because your damage is usually 2 to 3 here, where Angels has a lot of 4 toughness creatures. But just lots of ways to get card advantage. Chandra, Lelia, and Light Up the Stage. Electrostatic Blast is kind of card advantage indirectly. Static Discharge Scales, Shock, Play with Fire, and then some creatures in Dragon Rage, Soulscar, and Kumano. 22 lands is a decent amount, and then you got quite a few utility lands mixed in. Then we have Rakdos Goblins. This is a deck that got another nut of the Lords, so we're kind of featuring all the Lords in these Eternal formats, just ways to play a bunch of new creatures. So Rudvelt Hordemaster 2 mana, 1/1, other goblins get +1/1, and then whenever it or another goblin dies, you exile the top card of your library. If it's a goblin, you may cast it this turn. So you can kind of chain through your deck, and what this one is kind of a combo version. So Sling Gang can sack to drain your opponent. Skirk Prospector can get you mana, and then Palistic Mons, it pings whenever a goblin dies, and you're just trying to play cards off the top of your library, get a whole bunch of value, ping, 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 play your Muxuses, and just chain off, kind of combo storm off like that. Snoop also lets play cards, so this one's not the get all your goblins haste with Kiki-Jiki. It is a different Kiki-Jiki. It's not Kiki-Jiki, Krinko. Kiki-Jiki's looking to kind of copy these types of creatures, and Sling Gang that makes tokens, or Munitions Expert as removal, stuff of that nature. Mono Red, so this is my deck that I got Mythic with this month, and folks are playing to about 56% win rate. I played it to 68% win rate. I'm not tracking the games I was playing on mobile. That also helped me get Mythic, but I was pushing about 70%. And the tech that we played this month, I'm always kind of flexing my 2 to 4 slots every kind of new set release, and it's Radha's Firebrand. So 2 mana, 3/1. Notably, it can be cast off a Burning Tree Emissary draw. This card does a lot in terms of just pushing through the last points of damage. When it attacks, a creature with power less than Radha's can't block this turn, so you can get through and just kind of push through damage sometimes. If it's like Bishop of Wings, like 1/4, you can push through damage. I was playing against Neoform a lot this month for whatever reason towards the end, and they had Wall of Blossoms, so I'm just like, cool Tuk Tuk Rebel 4, cool Wall of Blossoms, just attack in, crush, and kind of go from there. The rest of the deck's just very aggressively slanted. Reckless Ringleader gives you a bunch of haste. With the uptick of Elves, I'm playing some copies of Chain Whirler. Also with Elves, we need Play with Fire. It's important to kind of pick off their key pieces. The deck's worst matchups continues to be the Wizards deck. Just 3 toughness is tough, and they can push through a lot of damage, as well as back it up with burn. But Bone Crusher, some numbers in here. Ferocidon, still the best kind of anti-life gain synergy, ping damage. Lelia for our card advantage, and a couple copies of Embercleave on the top end. I generally find 24 lands is the ideal amount here, and not all in on Dens. We're kind of a mix here. We do have kind of a go-wide package at times, especially with early Burning Tree drops. So the Castle Ardenvale's a good mana sink in that regard. Then we have, these are a couple decks we don't have enough games played, but there's some cool decks if you want to try it out. This is Simic Merfolk, and with Merfolk we got Voldalian Hexcatcher. Flash basically turns all your Merfolks into Cursecatcher, which is basically they can sacrifice themselves to counter a non-creature spell unless they pay 1. So now we have Lords in like Hexcatcher. We have the Merfolk Mistbinder, we have Master Pearl Triant, we have Mirror Regery, and kind of go from there. Sylvian puts Ward on our stuff, and then you got a bunch of things to scale. Card draw, tempo, Coco, Shell. So if you like the tempo kind of strategy, Fish might be it for you. And then we have a Rakdos mid-range deck, kind of an Arcanist style strategy. So you still have your DRCs, a whole bunch of discard in this one. Notably no Fable the Mirror Breaker in this one, or Seasoned Pyromancer. but we have some copies of Liliana. Lelia is their choice for card advantage in this deck. And then some Hazards on the top end. K-Command. This one's kind of cool because Life of Tashiro's plus 2/2 on the Arcanist can mean you can flash back some bigger stuff as well. So it's kind of like K-Command, get it back. Dreadhorde Arcanist, cast your K-Command with the Life of Tashiro, so some synergies there as well. Can't really attest to this one, haven't played it. I've run into merfolk quite a few times, and it's a pretty formidable deck unless you kind of pick off their pieces. It's some of their parts as opposed to individual threats. And lastly, I've been trying to find this deck forever. Run into this person a few times in the ladder. They played predominantly best of 3, and they finished #1 Mythic last month after the end of the season. It's a Dimir Ninjas deck, and it's using Retrofitter. Oh, here it is. A Retrofitter Foundry to make tokens, but notably there's a turn 1 combo, if you want to call it, but Retrofitter Foundry on turn 1, and then if you have Ornithopter, you can just sack a Thopter to create a 4/4 colorless artifact. So on turn 1, you can basically create a 4/4, which seems kind of busted. You have tempo plays like Fairy Seer, Scries, kind of gets you out, but you have the Moon Circuit that draws you cards. You have the Infiltrator that draws you cards. Cyber-Siphoneer can buy back your removal or counters. Ninja Deep Hours is another way to draw cards. So it's very much a tempo shell. Changeling Outcast counts as a Thopter as well, so it works with the Retrofitter. It also counts as a Ninja, so kind of 2-for-1 value there. So I'll include this list as well. But let me know if you're playing in Historic, any of the new cards, if you're liking these tribal synergies. If you're like me and just say basic mountain, Firebrand, basic mountain, burning tree, Rada, go. But let me know what's working for you, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.